Hi everyone, welcome to this month's rendition of NDC Watch. We haven't had an episode since the end of March, but since our last episode, we've had three new NDCs. Kenya at the end of April, and in May, Moldova and Nepal. I'm joined by Chris, and we will go through the three NDCs to talk about the kind of SLCP content and the areas of progress that we see in these NDCs. So starting first with Kenya, Chris, would you like to tell us a bit about Kenya's NDC?
Thanks very much, Scarlett. It's nice to be here again. So Kenya have submitted their NDC with a 35% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions compared to a business as usual scenario by 2035, and have included within it actions that we know can reduce short-lived climate pollutants. There's not a specific mention of short-lived climate pollutants within Kenya's NDC, other than methane being part of that 35% reduction. But we can see from the actions within Kenya's NDC that there are specific actions that we know can help to improve air pollution and reduce short-lived climate pollutants. For example, they specifically highlight clean cooking as being one of the measures that will be implemented to achieve their NDC. They highlight the electrification of the vehicle fleet, modal shift, mass rapid transit in the transport sector, climate smart agriculture, and sustainable waste management strategies. So we've got measures there that can target methane. We've got measures there that can target black carbon, in addition to reducing carbon dioxide emissions. And Kenya has been a Climate and Clean Air Coalition partner for quite a while now and is developing a national SLCP plan where we know that some of these measures have been evaluated in terms of their SLCP emission reductions and their health benefits. Scarlett, what did you take away from Kenya's NDC?
So I think the kind of emphasis that although Kenya didn't mention specifically some of the SLCPs, they recognise that agriculture, for example, is 32% of Kenya's total emissions, a sector where the non-CO₂ components are kind of the vast majority of emissions, so methane and nitrous oxides. And that kind of promotion of climate smart agriculture, emphasising crop and animal husbandry, efficient livestock management, I think were really, really great to see. Those are measures that, you know, are identified in our assessments. And yeah, really looking forward to seeing what's in Kenya's SLCP plans.
Shall we talk about Moldova? There is so much to unpack in Moldova's NDC. Do you want to start, Scarlett, and then I can come in?
Sure. So Moldova's NDC, I think, kind of for us at the CCAC, the kind of most exciting thing to see was their specific reference to the Global Methane Pledge. Moldova really excitingly has included a specific methane target or goal with an economy-wide target to reduce net methane emissions by 64% below 1990 by 2030 and 68% below 1990 levels by 2035. They make reference to their short-lived climate pollutant plan and their methane roadmap. So that's a super ambitious target set by Moldova, and we see very few NDCs that set such ambitious economy-wide targets for methane. And I think as we move closer to 2030, which is the year of the target year for the Global Methane Pledge, it's really great to see countries talking about their specific commitments on methane. Chris, I don't know whether you've got anything else to add there.
Absolutely. Moldova's NDC does not stop there in terms of the way in which it includes short-lived climate pollutants. So we've got methane, we've got this methane target. Much of that will have to come from reductions in solid waste, which are about 49% of national total methane emissions in Moldova. Agriculture, enteric fermentation is about 18%, and then the energy sector, fugitive emissions from oil and gas pipelines are about 19%. So that's where they're going to have to target methane emission reductions. But when we look at the broader short-lived climate pollutant mitigation in Moldova's NDC, we also have the Kigali Amendment. They specifically highlight that reducing HFCs is part of achieving their new NDC targets to 2035. They've legislated to get that 80% phase down in HFCs by 2045 achieved. And they specifically highlight in their NDC that this not only can help to reduce their impact for climate change by reducing the refrigerant, by reducing and replacing hydrofluorocarbons, but also through energy efficiency by making refrigerators, air conditioners more energy efficient. The bit of Moldova's NDC I was most excited about, though, was the way in which they talk about air pollution and the benefits of air pollution to achieving Moldova's NDC. They include in their NDC the results from a survey, which we've also seen in Canada's NDC, that highlights how concerned people are about air pollution in Moldova. Of the people that they surveyed, 84% were concerned about air pollution, only 68% were concerned about climate change, and only 20% of people knew what the government was doing in response to climate change in Moldova. And I think this is an important message. People are more concerned about air pollution and how it is affecting their health directly in many cases than they are about climate change. And by linking these two issues together, we can get more action on both of them. And this is really underlined in Moldova's NDC, where they highlight that 3,000 people every year are dying from air pollution. But from the actions in the energy sector, the World Bank estimated that particulate matter concentrations from human sources could be reduced by 84%, and 4,100 premature deaths by 2050 could be avoided because of the actions that they've included in their NDC in the energy sector. So we really see that air pollution is a central part of Moldova's NDC, and their NDC can contribute to improving the health of Moldovans in addition to achieving their emission reductions. And that's a theme that we also see in the final NDC that has been submitted this time in Nepal. What did you take away from Nepal's NDC, Scarlett?
Yes, absolutely. I think Nepal really outlined those co-benefits, especially to air pollution in their NDC. They not only have a section on co-benefits talking about how the actions described in their NDC will have benefits for other kind of sectors and other issues. They also go a step further and set out how air pollution is an adaptation priority and quantify the impact of the policies outlined in their NDC and say how it can be improved. So they say that they can reduce the ambient and household air pollution related disease burden, I think they describe it as, from 77 over 100,000 by 2030 and by 60 over 100,000 by 2035. So again, I think being able to put those specific and quantitative numbers on air pollution is really highlighting how closely interlinked the two issues are, and that the governments of both countries are really seeing them as priority issues together, which of course we really love to see.
Just to highlight, Scarlett, on those numbers, to highlight how ambitious that priority is, I looked up this morning the global burden of disease statistics for the air pollution health burden in Nepal, and 156 people per 100,000 in Nepal. The mortality rate from air pollution is 156 people per 100,000. So those targets by 2030 and 2035 are halving the disease burden from air pollution. So it's a really ambitious target that they've set alongside their climate change targets.
That's a really great point, and I don't think I'd realised quite how ambitious they were being. And I guess that, of course, aligns them with the WHO target, I guess, coming out of Cartagena earlier on in the year of halving the number of deaths attributable to air pollution. So great to see that they're aligned kind of across the board.
One thing that I'd like to finally highlight on Nepal's NDC that I really like to see, and is I think becoming a theme with these 2025 NDC update is the specificity with which Nepal is identifying the actions and targets that it wants to take to achieve its overall reduction of 27% of greenhouse gas emissions compared to a baseline scenario in 2035. They don't just stop at that overall target, they set sectoral targets. So we know how much the agriculture sector, how much the energy sector is going to contribute. And they even go further than that, setting specific targets for particular actions. For example, 2.1 million households switching to electric cooking. They have huge renewable energy potential in Nepal through hydro, and getting people switching to electric cooking not only helps make use of that renewable energy potential, but also reduces indoor air pollution and contributes to that air pollution target. They aim to have 95% of private vehicles being battery electric vehicles by 2035. So ramping up the electrification of the vehicle fleet as well, and switching to public transport and electrification of rail freight. So we really see some specificity in how Nepal want to achieve their mitigation targets, which I think we're seeing with many countries that are submitting updating NDCs. And that really helps to identify where the opportunities are to reduce short-lived climate pollutants alongside greenhouse gases.
Yes, absolutely. I think especially where countries don't necessarily identify for themselves where their SLCP reductions are coming from, it's really useful for us to be able to track SLCP action because most of the measures they talk about, even if they don't describe the SLCP impact, obviously still do have an SLCP benefit. So yeah, we really like to see that. So I guess that was it for the three since our last NDC update, and hopefully we will be seeing more in the coming months. Chris, I don't know whether you've got any kind of last words to wrap us up.
Only to say that in the three that we've looked at this week, there are some excellent examples for other countries to follow as to how SLCPs can be at the heart of those NDCs. So yeah, looking forward to reviewing more next month. Thanks, Scarlett.
Thanks, Chris.